Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. So there are a few spiritual keys in life, at least principles that I follow that I believe that are commonalities that we all share for why we're here and when it comes to understanding life's biggest questions. But one of the things that I've come to understand is that we're all here in this life to learn and grow. And if you're listening to this, yourself included, in my opinion. And if you've been tuning to my channel for a while, my podcast, or I also do YouTube as well. But if you're just tuning into my content, you know that I'm very personal growth oriented. Perhaps at times, I know for me, I might get too much into it. And I feel like even with that, I have to balance it out. Because although, yes, we're here for that reason, it's not like every single moment has to be like that, a learning and growth moment type of thing. There is plenty, in fact, time to just enjoy even just like the simple things in life, whether it's by ourselves or with good company. It all has a place. But I do want to touch on what's been coming up for me when it comes to the growth part that I think that needs to be stated. So we all have an intellectual and feeling nature. Our intellectual nature is the part that organizes, analyzes, dissects, the part that wants to understand why things are the way they are. Our feeling nature is the part that wants to feel connection, that feels the sense of oneness with everything, the sense of belonging. It's also where our intuition is, our intuitive part. And why I bring that up is because I can learn a great deal. Whether it be looking at YouTube videos, reading books, I can learn a lot of things. And that's like, as far as looking at it from like an intellectually, I can learn a lot of things. You can learn a lot of things, and perhaps you know a lot of things. And all that's nice. Nothing wrong with it. But I think another important thing to consider is that as much as I can learn, there's one thing that won't ever replace what's required to grow. And that is experience. Experience is the difference between, having these ideas or theories about many things in life and wisdom. When I actually have experienced something, it being in that process, embracing it, facing it, that's how I show up. That is the requirements. That is the price to pay to grow. That is one thing that I cannot cheat my way out of in life. No one else can either. Again, people can argue if you want, but in my experience, when I try arguing or resisting that, it hasn't gone well for me in the past. And so, in a sense, this is like an equalizer to me. And also, in a sense, too, I'm reminded of why it's important for us to be responsible for ourselves because of this. I can receive the assistance of many people in my life, in my own growth process and journey, and that's great. But I still have to do my part. Nobody else can grow for me. Nobody else can grow for you. Wherever your situation is, if you have a support system, great. If you don't, well, you're not alone. You're not alone. And plus, I think even for those perhaps that they may not have the support system that they truly desire, things can shift. But it's got to start from within first. And unless I change my ideas about my circumstances, how can I expect things to change? It's like that famous quote, like insanity is thinking is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different to happen. Paraphrasing here. There's a lot of spiritual truth in that saying, in that quote. I don't know if it was Einstein or somebody said that quote. Don't know off the top of my head. Can't confirm that. So the learning and growth process, it's well, at least what's coming up now. So knowing that I have to have the experience, I need to be involved in life, and that's part of the fulfillment of the soul, is to be involved. Otherwise, if I just become an observer, or rather, not an observer is actually a good quality. I would say if I just become a spectator, I'm not going to get much out of my own life. And I might start trying to live through other people. Know anyone like that? And so with the process, I think for me, one thing I also want to bring up is that suffering is optional. Suffering is optional. Growing pains, however, are natural. And something that I've been experiencing lately, and why it's inspired this podcast episode, is what I'm understanding about growing pains and why they can be a pain at times. Because I know there are some things, in some areas in my life where I'm facing challenges, particularly when it comes to relating with people. I'm having a little bit of challenges in how I feel about myself, how I feel about certain people in my relationships. And there's a lot of stuff that comes up. Thoughts and feelings. But first, I want to clarify something. When it comes to thoughts and feelings, we are all spiritually sensitive. We can pick up thoughts and feelings from the environment. And that of itself really is something that it's been an ongoing process for me to discern what's me and not me. Because too often it has been the case where I would take on thoughts and feelings where I've been conditioned and think, well, it's mine because it's happening inside me. Like, it's got to be me. Well, who else could it be? Like, there's like this programming, that I'm still working through. How else can it not be me? When in fact, when I've had experiences where I was able to identify in the ways that in certain experiences, the thoughts and feelings I had weren't really mine. So that is to say, the thoughts and feelings you might be picking up, it's never a bad idea to take it with a grain of salt. And I think it's important to there's this need to embrace it, right? Especially because if it's like something that embracing meaning not fighting it, because if I'm resisting it, then it's creating, I'm hooking myself onto it, right? But if I just embrace it, allow it to just come through me. I think about like the flowing water, easy in, easy come, easy go, and it just flows through. I think the things that genuinely aren't mine will go, unless I find a reason, or I look for something, or I just hold on to something. And this is an interesting thing because that discernment piece is very crucial. So, okay, so I'm having these thoughts and feelings. Is this me? No. Okay. And I think the difficult part is even when it's not me, to have to learning to allow those feelings to just pass through. Like that right there is a challenge for me. But what also has been a challenge, the thoughts and feelings that come up within me that are mine, not anybody else's, that are mine, that have happened as a result of my programming and conditioning, part of my own journey, part of my own life curriculum, my process. Being with it. And for me, at times, like I mentioned, for me, having challenges with the thoughts and feelings I have in certain areas in my relating with people, that it's just being able to just, going back to what I said about the growing pains, to be able to just sit with that, to sit with those feelings within me, my feelings, even though they don't feel pleasant, they don't feel great. And I'm like, why do I feel like intellectually? I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling sad or anxious or jealous, envious? Why do I feel myself comparing when I know it's not the best thing? It's not healthy. Because my feeling part, there's that unfoldment from there. Like I said, we can all have intellectually, we can learn a lot of things, we can know better, right? Like, for example, let's keep it in perspective here. I'm sure you've been told, like, don't worry about what people think. Like, yeah, who cares what people think? If I said that, that would be so disingenuous, because I genuinely care about what people think. Now, I think with that, it's like, the message there is not to be like, oh, like, screw it. Like, I don't think nobody's like, oh, I don't care what other people think. We all have, to some degree, have some concern about how other people think about us. Everybody says otherwise. Either they're just so disingenuous, or they're just like really in denial, or maybe low key maybe they've done the work and they're at a good place in their lives where they're genuinely pretty good. And if that's the case, and I'm sure it has for a good many people, great. But speaking for myself, I genuinely have some concern with it. Like, I think the message there, like, don't care about what people think, as an example, is to not over concern myself about what people think. And I know that other people's thoughts and their opinions about me is none of my business. So the feelings, the discomfort I'm feeling, which I think part of it is like the worry and fear, in that case, in that example of being judged, like those kind of feelings and sitting with those, it's the part I'm learning about the growing pains and why it's not always all roses. It's not always great and wonderful, but rather it's just like, it's moments in time where it can get a little bit heavy, and that's okay. And I say it's okay because I'm the type of individual that I believe it's important to keep our inner child alive and keeping it light, stay light. And I think it's important to stay light after we're working through those moments of heaviness. Because like the ebbs and flows of the ocean waves, like that's the ebbs and flows in life, stuff will come up where it will feel heavy. When I stress being like keeping it light, stay light, it's not like trying to fake it necessarily, but it's like after I move through the storms, when it passes, to come back home. Like, that's a very, very important thing. It's to work, to be able to dance in the ebbs and flows. And that's really part of, again, just like I think the growing pain process. So when the storms come within myself, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this again. I know better. This isn't cool. And it's like, yeah, I know better intellectually, but from a feeling point of view, from the soul's perspective, the unfoldment of the soul, the evolution, that takes time. Cannot rush that. The times when I try to rush it, it just doesn't do anything. I just find myself getting just stagnant. I just frustrated, upset. And then at some point, I'm just like feeling miserable in my own life. And who does that help if it doesn't me? If it doesn't do anything for me? It won't help anybody else. I'll tell you that much. So the growth process is just being able to just sit with all that. Sit with those thoughts and feelings, and being with those challenges that I know are there, and I'm experiencing them recurringly, just again and again. It's like, okay, here I am. All right. And it's because of all this and what I put together. It is a reason why those small moments of victories, even when I can feel a shift in my feelings about something, where initially like I felt a little bit stressed or under pressure, but now I feel a little lighter. Even if it's just a little bit, I notice it within myself. And that, to me, I'll take that as a victory. And I think in times like these, when the growth process is very gradual, progressive, things don't just happen in the snap of a finger, all of a sudden, I'm healed of all the stuff, the conditioning and programming. Because I have to remember, we're all patterns of energy, patterns of light. And a pattern doesn't just go away overnight. Although I'm a firm believer that some people can just cut off or kind of shift it. And I think that's the key. Like a negative pattern into something positive. But the key for that is there has to be something constructed to replace it with. There has to be sincerity. And that isn't to say there aren't situations where, like, oh shoot, like, boom, like a lot of things can happen. But I'm thinking from, like, generally speaking, though, it's not an overnight thing, is what I want to get at. And that's the thing for me, is just to have patience with myself, to have love and compassion for myself, and even the thoughts and feelings that come up that aren't so good, that I know that is the wounded inner child, the childishness, the hurts, the things that get stimulated. For me, is the growing pain is be able to sit and embrace those feelings and not avoid them, because I've seen plenty of people that have, and it don't look pretty. I tell you that much. I'm sure you can relate and can perhaps witness in other people or even in yourself. So when it comes to the growth process, we have to show up. And that's why I hear the saying, show up, embrace it, face it. Because all those things that come up, although they're not pleasant and not so great, and it can feel uncomfortable, but those are the very things are why we're here. For our own spiritual evolution, and quite frankly, our own personal liberation. It's through those moments, through those experiences, working with those patterns and shifting those patterns so that it becomes negative, it shifts from negative to positive. That's how we evolve. That's why with evolution, the symbol that when it comes to, like, the spiritual evolution, it's like a spiral. And but it's an upward spiral. And as it goes up, it starts to expand. Like, just to give you, like, a little visual, like, imagine a line and it's kind of going in a spiral, in a circle. And as it goes up, it starts to make a wider and wider circle. That's like a visual of what our spiritual evolution is like. And so, I find that I'm dealing with stuff even since my first 7 years, perhaps even stuff that dealing since high school. And like I said, it's not great, but I have to be patient with it. I have to, or I'll just fight. And like I said, you probably understand this at this point, So that's just the big thing. It's just embracing those feelings that are uncomfortable, being comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, with the stuff that's coming up within me, perhaps stimulated by my environment, or not. Who knows? It could just be within just. But oftentimes, if it has to do with me, there's something in the environment that I'm, like, involved in that's like, oh, I'm getting stimulated somehow. And of course, the process of discerning that, making sure it's me and not me, because then that's a whole thing altogether. But then that in itself, like I said earlier, it's its own practice. So after all this being said and done, I don't know where you're at. Perhaps you might share in the sentiment that I feel about stuff, areas in your life where, like, damn, why do I feel like this, or I'm like this in this area, and I know better. Well, first, I hope to let you know that you're not alone in this, and that, it just, where I have to remind myself, it's just going to take time. And I think as long as I have stayed committed to myself to be able to see this through and trust that I will see it through, I will make it. And the fact that I'm standing here right now, or sitting on my chair here recording this podcast and talking to you about it, speaks volumes on I have made in the past with other challenges and other storms that have come up in my life. And if you're here listening to this, you have done the same thing too. And that's proof enough to know that no matter what you're dealing with right now, you will make it. Because you're here. Because you're here. And I want to say this, you're a lot more powerful than you think you are. Or perhaps I would say you're a lot more powerful than you think. And all this talk about growth and whatnot, and one thing that I want to just kind of end the episode on. I remember one of the things that I got these concepts that I'm glad I let go and I outgrew was like this religious concept of like heaven and hell being like, if I do, like this idea that people are doomed forever, or are destined for doom. Oh, you're going to hell because XYZ. It's more than that. And I don't think anybody's condemned, no matter what their circumstances and what actions they've taken. I'm a believer that we all can turn it around at any moment. I'm a firm believer. When there's sincerity and respect, anything can happen. And we'll all make it eventually. Like, that's the thing that I've come to understand. Like, to put it another way, nobody needs saving. You don't need to be saved. I don't need to be saved. And our neighbor, they don't need to be saved. Because we're going to make it. We're all going to be fine. We all are fine. And that's looking at it from the big picture, the spiritual perspective. That's the perspective that our spiritual helpers, that they have. They don't worry about what we're going through. They don't fear for us. They don't worry for us because they have a bigger picture. They understand. They get it. And they want to impart and share the essence of spiritual truth, that reality, that knowing, the oneness with us in our own process. So, just want to invite you to just take a moment to breathe. Whatever that stuff you got going on in your life, it's totally valid. Like, whatever how you feel about it all, and all those things, it's totally valid. I hear you and I see you. But no matter what, though, everything's going to be all right. So I'll end it there, my friend. This has been another episode of the Spiritual Engineer Podcast. I'm your host, Alvin Zepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.